So happy you all joined us on a Wednesday afternoon. And go ahead and chat us if you have questions about the poll everywhere. I'm going to enter an answer just so we check and see if it works.
Oh, I see one. Activities that will develop a culture of community in our virtual classrooms. That is what we're here for. I'm glad that you are also here for the same thing.
Excellent.
Has practical tips for improving our programming.
Programming sounds like maybe it's not a classroom. I'm curious to know what kinds of, what other kinds of organizations we have with us today. If you want to throw your different situations in the chat, and then we can kind of think through suggestions outside classrooms also.
Yeah, and I see we're seeing some ways to keep both staff and students engaged and ways to motivate program staff. So I think a lot of these activities that we talk about and we've developed have good energy to them, and so are a way to do both of those things. Cool. High school computer science teacher in the mix.
Awesome.
Yeah, starting off the new year, getting students comfortable, getting them sharing, getting them excited to be there.
While we're getting these answers in and you are participating in the poll, we wanted to share with you the materials that you'll need for today's activity. Shouldn't be too tricky. You're going to need some paper, just paper. We have some junk mail. Ooh, okay, you can't see mine. Some invisibility junk mail.
Excellent.
Old homework, you know, whatever you have. So that's what we're playing with today is paper.
Awesome. So knowing that people have gotten a chance to get warmed up with Poll Everywhere, we're seeing some folks on chat talking about teaching engineering at high school level. Shout out to Lawrence Hall of Science. Engineering, computer science, then we'll try and address some of those things, and feel free to share your perspective in chat as we go along. And we'll get all perspectives in here. All right, should we do this, Sherry?
I think so. I think we better start. All right, just a reminder, you need paper, just paper. Be sure to have some paper of the paper variety.
So welcome to Engineering for Community Building. We are from the Tech Interactive in San Jose, California, and I'm gonna share some great tips, techniques with you today. I am Erica Barwetto, and I'm the director of the Bowers Institute, which is the branch of the Tech that's focused on developing resources for educators based on what we do in the interactive and what we do in our PD programs, and the Tech Challenge, some other great programs as well.
And I am Sherry Birch. I am a project manager also under the Bowers Institute umbrella, and I also work with our tech academies, schools, and districts. And this is my first webinar for Bowers. I'm pretty excited to be here with you all. Shout out to Usha from my first year teaching. I'm so glad you're here. So our session goals today, we're going to experience a short challenge and look at how we build our community while we do that. We're going to discuss some strategies to help build learner perseverance and collaboration even during distance learning. And then we'll reflect on how we might apply those strategies with learners in your various situations and classrooms. So we're going to start off with a challenge, and then we'll talk about building perseverance and collaboration. We'll talk about applying those to your learners. We'll take a little trip into facilitation tips, also virtual learning tips that we've heard. And then there'll be some time for Q&A, but if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat as we go.
So first off, just want to give a little bit of background on design challenges. This is our graphic, our innovation design process graphic that we've developed at the Tech. And we see design challenges as a way to use real world problems to engage learners in an iterative design process and to develop these mindsets that are around the outside and are important to today. So key features of design challenges is that they're solvable by multiple solutions. They provide opportunities for iteration. They can connect with participant interests and also connect with real world problems and careers.
So getting really specific for community building, looking at our mindsets around the outside of our graphic here, bold and curious mindsets, are fostered in an engineering design environment. It's a safe space for risk-taking, and engineering fosters that collaborative mindset when every team member is contributing to the design and also in the share out. For perseverance, we have educators giving constructive feedback, but also students giving peer constructive feedback, and throughout the process recognizing that failure just informs our next design, right? It's not an end point, but a piece that drives us forward. And then empathy, thinking about helping students use active listening strategies with each other. And then also thinking about the needs of the user in our designs. So we can build these innovator mindsets in all of our design ventures.
And they are really good for community building.
Yes. So for community building, thinking about the kinds of designs that can help build community, you can think about building for a common goal where all students are working together to design something. Maybe they're each doing a different part, like designing a playground for the class pet. Each group might be designing something different. Having them design products for another team. This is that design thinking strategy where they have to go and get a little information from another team so that they can make the design tailored to that user. So something like designing a delivery system for the team's favorite snack. They could design for a community need. We all, as a community, have needs. So thinking a bit more broadly about what are the needs in that community. Something like designing a community garden or a COVID-safe food delivery system for neighbors. And then sharing solutions outside of just your little build group, if it's with the rest of the school or the organization or across teams, or even inviting parents to come for the share out. That gives the learners a chance to kind of band together to get ready for those presentations with those invited guests. So
also
just
a great way to feel accomplished, right? Of sharing it outside of just your classmates.
Yeah, it gives it that extra piece of significance, authenticity.
So we want to do a design challenge. We're going to go through frame and introduce a challenge, do our imagine, creating, and testing and reflecting, and sharing out. So we're going to do that in a quick sprint so that we can talk about some of the other features of design challenges and how to build community. But first, we want to talk about just sort of ways to introduce a challenge and how that can also be an opportunity to really inspire your students and get them excited. A lot of times we introduce challenges with sort of a driving question, you know, like how can you deliver a favorite treat to another team? That's sort of a more fun, whimsical one. Or how can we help to support our neighbors during COVID? More serious, but those kinds of questions can really get the students excited and involved and get them really thinking about the design challenge. You can use little videos. You can make one yourself or bring in an expert to make a video for you, and have that be a good hook for the students. And then coming up with stories and scenarios is really helpful too. So if you want to just throw in the chat real quick of how you might inspire your students, so things you know high schoolers are interested in, or third graders, or if it's something around your content area or something that you just know kids are excited about these days, go ahead and throw it in chat, and we can peruse those as we move into our design challenge.
You know, I'm a really big fan of those throwbacks to infomercials, you know, where they would do like the montage of people like using objects really poorly. So that can always be kind of a fun way to illustrate the problem that you're gonna pose to solve.
I just can't tear tape. It's so difficult. How will I solve this problem?
That can't be a difficult problem.
Oh, science experiments. Oh, dad joke of the day. I love it. I love it. Shall we introduce our challenge, Sherry?
We shall. All right, so today we are engineering for earthquakes and desk shakes. So we are going to be building a desktop paper fort for a future class pet. So you can see we have kind of a thought about what our class pet might be. Lizards are the best. The criteria for our fort today is that it needs to stay standing for 3 shakes of the desk. So if you have a desk that you're working on or a chair that you're working on that you can shake, that's where you'll want to build. And we want to include a way for our class pet to be able to rest off of the desk surface. So you're going to want to build it enough that the pet can get off of the desk onto whatever you are building. So we were thinking, you know, like a lounge on the roof or a second story or some sort of watchtower, or whatever your imagination can come up with.
And if lizards are not your favorite animal, you can choose another animal to build for. Sherry obviously has a bias, but that should not color. If you want a llama as a class pet, you build for a llama.
The dimensions might be a little bit different. But all right, so those are our criteria. And then our constraints will take about 10 minutes to build today. So after 10 minutes, we'll do some sharing out. You can use as much paper as your heart desires or that you have readily available. And you can use tape if you must. We don't want you to get so frustrated without tape that it's not fun. But do try to use it just sparingly. And then we want the base of what you're building to be about 6 by 6. So maybe don't get too carried away with how huge it is. All right, if you have questions about what we've laid out here as our challenge, you can put them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we better start building.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that we are gonna have some of you share out today. So we're gonna promote you to panelists so that we can see what you've done and what you've built. So please, be ready to share out, be ready to appreciate what other people are building. And I just wanted to note on paper that if you don't have big paper, I have a couple catalogs and some junk mail. You can do it with Post-its or something else that you have around, or smaller paper. Again, anything you've got that's papery, you can build with. You want to tear up a paper sack, go for it. See what you can make in 10 minutes. And Sherry and I are going to build along with you as well. We'd love for people to chat in any, I guess we can show them on the next slide, can't we, Sherry?
We can.
We're going to ask you some things during this, but we also want to, and these are things that you can ask before your build, during your builds as well. So Sherry, what does your lizard need from its structure?
Oh, it needs to be able to hide. All the lizards I had in my middle school classrooms really appreciated a place to not be seen and grabbed. So just just for a few minutes.
Yep.
A little solace. But I also know that if for example, the students are distracted, the lizard might also need a place to just lay out. So I would want a flat spot probably somewhere.
So a flat spot and a place to hide. That's nice.
Yes, they have many needs. How about your pet, Erica? What pet are you building for?
Well, I was tempted to build for a llama, but as you said, the dimensions may not be accurate. So I think I'm going to build for a bird. And so for a bird, I think I need something vertical. So that might that gives me a challenge to build something that goes up. And I know that they like perches. So I'm going to use a tree as inspiration and do a little bit of branchiness if I can manage it. You didn't tell us we needed scissors, but I'm going to use some. You didn't tell us we couldn't use scissors.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm going to use them.
I noticed that Allison has a paper bag, which I think is also a super creative way to find some paper.
I do. I am, just like you guys said, I'm making one for my dog, and she likes to be a lounge lizard in the sun, but also she likes to go and hide away. And so I have a little doggy door for her here, and where I would place it on the patio in order for her to get the best sunshine that she can get.
I'm excited about a dog as a class pet, so I wish that every classroom had some therapy animals. Right now, my daughter's classroom does have a dog because she's on the computer. I'm using tape, but I'm trying to use it sparingly. So I made a couple of dowels and threw some tape on there to hold it together. Does anybody else have a neat trick they discovered for connecting paper? Mine's not really a neat trick, it's tape. So does anybody? I'm gonna try a neat trick now, and I'm gonna notch these two and then try and put them together to make them stand up.
I always have trouble with my dowels unraveling, and so I do need tape, but I tried a triangle support instead, and that tends to not unravel. It kind of folds over onto itself.
Interesting. Can you show us, Sherry? Because I can't see it.
Maybe if I can show it in front of me so it doesn't go invisible. So put it in front of my face.
Does anyone have a neat trick they want to share in chat for how they're connecting their paper together? Trying to do it without tape? Or maybe people are so engrossed in building that typing something in seems like no fun. How much more time do we have, Sherry? I didn't start a timer.
I'd give us 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I think you guys have another 5 minutes.
Unless we get panicked messages in the chat.
Yeah.
Ooh, sticky pads. That's a great point. That you might not use tape, but you might use other ways to stick things together. I know we get a lot of those address labels that people send when you donate to one charity, then they all send you address labels. So that's something I might use for my home design.
I definitely need a third piece to this. Do you think my bird needs a place to a platform to sit on too, or is it happy with just branches?
Are you asking us of a bird?
I'm asking about your intense bird knowledge. I'll make a nest for it. I may have been trying to be lazy and not doing that, but since my bird can't go out and forage for nest building materials, I'll get it started.
I'm using my junk mail, and for some reason now I really would like to have a hamburger for dinner tonight. Coincidental, I'm sure.
I want to redecorate my whole house because I'm using a catalog. So I have some perseverance related questions of if anybody's running into challenges and how they solved it. If anybody wants to chat that in. I'm kind of running into a tripod challenge, but I think I can just make one of these shorter by bending it. and solve that problem.
I was thinking about how I would get my paper, because even the triangles start to unwind themselves. And then I realized if I just crush it real good at the top, not at the bottom, then it's kind of making a little piece there.
Oh. Yeah, I did a similar thing where when I'm crushing these at the bottom, I did use tape in the middle, but when I crush those at the bottom, it keeps the other shape going. I might use sticky notes as my platform. Because then I'm not really using tape, but guess what? It's tape-like. So one thing that feels collaborative and teamy to me, even though I can only see 3 of us, is just doing this with someone else. Because we can kind of chat and do this as we go, share some things. We could talk about maybe some other topics that come to mind, new pets that we've gotten recently. So even having that sort of build time with folks, even if we're not in the same room, you can get some of that classroom-like chatter going on in your virtual environments too. And when there's a focus, it gives some kids who are a little more shy, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more time to formulate a thought and want to share something more organically while they're building and designing.
Looks like we're coming up on like the 5-minute mark pretty soon. So we want to finish up our designs.
Yeah, I might give people another minute or two. We ran through the intro pretty quickly, but I do want people to think about, if you are going to share, your creation does not have to be finished. So I'm going to do my risk-taking speech. If this is not something you would normally do, today is your day to try it, to share what you've created in 10 minutes with junk mail for a class pet with probably mostly strangers on this webinar. So if it's not something you would normally do, why not make today the day that you do it?
Yeah, and if you guys want to go ahead and like raise your hands, like if you go down, you can like raise your hand and then we'll promote you so you can share out.
So I think if we get at least 3 or 4 people to share out, that would be great. And we can model some techniques and what that looks like. So you'll have a chance to share your creation and talk a little bit about it. We have a few questions that we'll ask you about your creation, and maybe we have to tell them the build time is over. So that people will raise their hands. Has anybody raised their hands yet, Allison?
No, not yet. Please don't be shy. Show us. You can't believe the type of things that we've come up with before. So
yeah,
please don't be shy.
I have to show off. I have the little thing and it's standing and it hasn't fallen down. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I forgot to test mine.
Can't see it. I had to test it a lot, but it didn't really test until it had 4 legs, and now it does. And I'm afraid to shake the table.
Okay, so we have 3 people so far. So Christopher, and then Jacob and Anna, and I'm going to go in that order. So Christopher, I am going to promote you to panelist, and once he's done, Jacob and Anna, you will go next.
And we'll go on to the next slide so we can show you what our sharing questions are. We'll give our great volunteers. Allison, if you want to promote all of them right now, I think that'll work out great.
Sure. And
then we can. So you raised your virtual hand already. We're promoting a few people to panelists. If you didn't raise your hand yet and you still want to do it, please go for it. And we would like you to talk about, we're going to have these folks turn on their camera and make sure that we can see the structure that they built for their animal. Hello, Christopher. And then we'll go through our folks who can present and share. But we're going to ask you a couple of questions along the way. So for everybody else, as well as those presenting, how did you address your pet's needs? Did you borrow any ideas from somebody you saw, someone else you saw, or what else inspired you? Have everyone else, if you can be ready to chat some helpful feedback or ideas or appreciations to these brave folks who are sharing their designs, that would be awesome. So let's go ahead. I can't remember what order Allison said. Did she say Jacob go first?
Yeah, so Christopher, Jacob, and then Anna.
Awesome. So Christopher looks like he's ready. Go ahead, Christopher, let's.
I wouldn't exactly say I'm ready, but here we go. So I kind of thought back to my childhood and to a story where I used to, and this is actually real, I had a pet turtle when I was a kid, and her name was Lucy, and we kept her in our yard, and one day she ran away. So my structure is for, and I'm going to try to show it right here. It's my, well, let's see, there's my little Lucy inside. Oh. There's my turtle. And basically, let me see if I could turn the camera around. There we go. All right, so basically I have the 4 walls. Let me see, sorry, it's backwards. 4 walls and a little viewing window so that we could hang out and give her food and all of that stuff. And basically just keeping her safe, and it's a little rock turtle, and hopefully she won't run away from here.
Yeah, it looks fairly secure.
Yeah, definitely held up the shake test.
Nice. Did you borrow any neat ideas from anything you saw Allison or Sherry or I doing, or did you borrow any ideas just from past structures or other inspirations?
I definitely borrowed the idea of using very minimal tape. So there was some tape there. But I was just mainly focused on 4 walls and keeping my little Lucy from running away.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to throw something into the mix for our sharing. So Jacob, when you start sharing, could you give us first an appreciation for Christopher's design? And then Anna, when you start, you can give Jacob an appreciation. And then when Anna's finished, Christopher, you can give Anna an appreciation. So.
All right. Something that I appreciate about Christopher's design is how he reached back into his childhood and used his pet turtle as a way of developing empathy for his design. So in terms of the design I made, it's not done yet, but it's kind of like a pyramid-y shape type of structure. This structure is based upon, is for my dog who likes to hide underneath tables. He likes shelter. And so like right now, my dog is underneath my table right now. There he is. So he likes shelter, and he likes something over him for some reason. And so just wondering if having something like this would give him some shelter. And also I thought about kind of the base for an earthquake. And so if the base is really wide, it's barely gonna shake and make the structure up there, fall. And I'm thinking about like wind and how wind kind of goes in a slanted direction or goes around the structure. So I'm thinking about the Salesforce Tower, for instance, how wind goes around it and so it doesn't blow away. So those are kind of constraints I was thinking of when making the structure.
Super.
Yeah.
I love the inspiration of some things you know from architecture and how wind and buildings interact. That's really cool. I think you addressed all my questions, so I'm going to pass it on to Anna, and Anna can give Jacob an appreciation. Thank you, Jacob.
All right, cool.
I love how you thought of your dog when you were building that, And it does remind me of a little doghouse with a little point up there. I love the blue also. And I guess I'll go on to mine. So I was thinking of my leopard gecko who's over there, but I don't think she's up to trying this out. But I made a little, it's on a little board right now, but I made a little platform because you guys wanted it off the ground, and I think my gecko likes to be off the ground. The shelter that it has right now is off the ground. It's low enough for the gecko to climb onto. It does have like a wind break, and the wind can kind of flow over it. There is no tape on here. Yay!
Ooh, nice.
I'm
Virtual
going to
high five.
deconstruct it so you can see. So this is just, it's going to shake around because it's not stuck to the ground, but it's pretty stable, I think. And all it is this bent over and kind of sandwiched between this folded up piece of paper. So this is another piece of paper that's kind of held by folds onto the base. And the base has a triangular kind of accordion structure.
Very cool.
I remember from engineering design that that's pretty good for support. It's a triangular shape, so it's going to have a lot of opposing forces to pressure downward. And so it's all held together just by folds. And I think it satisfied most of your stuff. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well done, Anna. I loved hearing about all your different inspirations for the design and pulling from some previous knowledge, as well as I love a gecko. So
he's a beautiful gecko.
Wait. Christopher, do you want to give Anna an appreciation?
Sure. Great design. Definitely appreciate the fact that she followed the rules to the T. And so it was really well done. So kudos to her for that. And then just kudos for everyone in general, because it looks like we all used our pets, a little bit of inspiration, and kudos to everybody that still has their pets with them.
That's
Shout
great.
out to Lucy.
And so one last question for all of our brave folks who shared. Can you also share what you would do next with your pet shelter? So what's something you might add on, or what would you do next, or what would be next in your process? We can go in any order.
Would probably add some more windows, maybe some shade or some covering. And I must have missed the part where they said take it off of the ground, so I would add something underneath to lift it up a little bit. But that's what I would do.
Yeah, I feel like Anna's is very short because her gecko is not going to climb a mountain in order to get it to a second story or get to a fun part. So, sounds great, Christopher.
And Alvin, if you wanna come in, I saw that you raised your hand, so I promoted you to panelist.
Jacob, do you want to, while Alvin's getting ready, do you want to share what you would do next?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, am I on mute? No, I'm good.
Good. Yeah.
I would definitely put there's four like mini pillars on the floor so that it gets off the ground. In terms of interior design, I like to put a couple LED lights in there, color changing LED lights to give, a lighting effect and some comfort for my pet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love the idea of adding some wiring in there and getting some LEDs. That's a fun engineering challenge. Anna, do you want to share what you would do next? And then we'll have Alvin share his construction, and then I think that'll be it for our sharing.
I'm thinking of probably adding like a dish or something that could fit in there. Maybe have it, I'm playing with whether to have it inside or outside. And it needs to be, it's kind of paper, so if the water spills out, it's going to be a problem. So have to think of how to contain the water while still letting the gecko be able to get to it. So, and then a food area. So
nice. And Alvin, do you want to go ahead and share your pet structure? We need to unmute.
Sorry for the background noise. Some people are here actually doing some work at my house. But as you can see, kind of like a little spaceship there for lizards. There's a lot of lizards in my area, and there's a lot of lizards around our school. So this is kind of a spaceship for them to basically go into during an earthquake, right? Right.
Nice. I love it.
And so I had some, you know, the sticky pads that you put on to ease pain.
Mm.
So I used those to hold just some construction paper. That's all.
Lovely. I like the thinking about keeping the lizards safe during earthquakes. I know those little tiny lizards, they're all around, and I have no idea what kind they are. So if anybody knows that, throw it in the chat. And I like the idea of a spaceship, Alvin, of having
Right.
that be an inspiration, and who knows where the lizards are going to go.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for our brave shares. Really appreciate you taking the risk and sharing your creations and creativity with everyone. And I know the ones we didn't see were also amazing and creative. So we're gonna put you back to attendees. Again, thanks for sharing. And what's next, Jerry? What did you think of that share out, Jerry? Did it build community?
I feel really connected to these people, and I'm sad that our webinar is gonna be over in like 22 minutes, and then we won't get to hang out anymore. And I want to meet all of your pets, and I want to say that my sister also had a turtle run away, and I feel like that's what they do. And I swear someone came to my door 2 weeks ago with a lost turtle. So like, this is a problem. This is a different problem we need to solve. And I think the walls were really important on that design.
Yeah, it's been on next door a couple of times for me, so it's a problem.
So we, in our prototyping segment, we did some community building. One of the things that we tried was building together during synchronous build time, asking for ideas when we were feeling stuck. So we asked for some ideas, we shared some ideas, and then sharing some tips and tricks as we discovered them. Some other things that you can do for virtual is have them build on camera so that they can learn from each other, which we also did. If you have a lot of students at one time, you can put them in smaller breakouts so that they can talk to each other and collaborate without kind of all the crosstalk in large groups. If you have other thoughts for community building during that prototyping phase, please feel free to throw them in the chat.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say too that I think one thing that was really nice about this particular design challenge, Sherry, that you came up with, was the fact that since it was about pets, we got to hear something personal from everybody, right? So we know what pets people like, what they had, hearing about people's childhood pet adventures. That was really, like you said, I felt connected with everybody right away around that. And then again, thinking about the animals that live in our environment. So the lizards that are out and around. So that was a really nice challenge for that.
I've seen a lot of those, and now I want to build little spaceships for them and like then go check and see if they haven't like taken up residence. I'm thinking about it.
That's lovely.
So then we shared some solutions together. I think that is where a lot of the community building feels came in for me. So thinking about the needs of the pets and focusing on the needs of the user. They were all very unique structures, different from the thing that I attempted to build. They were all different shapes and different, had different functionality, which was really interesting. And then crediting ideas inspired by others. I definitely have some ideas that I got from all of the designs that were shared that I'm gonna use in future designs going forward. And then getting feedback from the community. So we got a few ideas in the chat. If we were all in a bigger conversation, we probably could have gotten a little bit more input from those standing around as we are testing and sharing. So ideally, if in a sharing solution situation, everybody would share. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to see everybody's designs today. We would want to recognize times where people work together or where people were inspired by someone else's design, make sure that they are recognizing where they got their inspiration from. We did do some appreciation today. We did have time for that, and that might be my new favorite thing to add to sharing. And focusing on process, which I think would have been more important if I had shared, because my design has now fallen over, and I would need to think more about what am I doing next, as opposed to judging myself on the design that fell over when it should have stood up. And we also did talk about like, what are the next steps? What would you do next? And then presenting for outside stakeholders. Perhaps we could have invited our pets to come and watch us present these designs to them.
Double our webinar attendance
That's
by
right.
inviting everyone's pets.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of neat too, because as you do a design challenge like this, you might have a student bring up an idea of, well, I know there's an animal shelter, and what if we shared our ideas for the different shelters with them, or with the zoo? And so having that kind of idea come up, and then thinking about how you might share out these ideas, again, synchronously or asynchronously, with some of those professionals who work with animals is a really neat connection for the students as well. So I'm curious from folks, if you want to throw into chat, sort of how you would celebrate and include everyone in your class share outs, or how have you done it in the past? Sherry, do you have any things that you've done or you've heard of from your educator friends?
I like to, when we're all standing in a big group, sometimes it can be hard, especially for students on that younger side, to pay attention for a longer testing time. And so usually I'll pick a couple people that I'm going to ask to give feedback, so they're paying extra close attention to the testing, and then they get to also weigh in, even if it's not their turn to test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think the focusing on process is a really important one as well, so that you can actually recognize that not everybody might have finished in time. In the situation we're in, not everybody might have had ideal materials. So that idea of, I can share my idea, I can share where I was going with this, and I can share what I would do next, or what I would do with different materials, is really great. Rachel had a great idea of having the group pose for a screenshot while holding up what they built, and then you can share that out. But that's a good sort of fun, goofy way to cap an event. Using Flipgrid videos for sharing for distance learning is also great. So you can't always get together or do that communal sharing in person or over a video call every time you do a design challenge. So having the videos as a way that you can get that, and even compile it then and send it back out to families of, this is all the great stuff that everybody built. This is a good way to recognize.
Yeah. Flipgrid also has a way where you can reply. So I had some first graders who were making masks, and they shared them on Flipgrid, and I got to go and look at them. And so I made replies where I made the same kind of mask and asked them what they thought of my design. It was really kind of fun. That's
great. Yeah, and it's a great way too that they can involve other folks in their design process and their sharing out. Lovely.
I did want to highlight this other suggestion about using Google Slides, because if students can put a picture or their own drawing of their design into Google Slides, the whole class can see them, but you can also put it in grid view and see all at once kind of what everyone did. So that's another great way to share.
Yeah, and from there you can go into, what are some of the similarities in what we made? How are things different? Again, what do you find inspiring that you might incorporate into your next design? It's fabulous.
Thank you for sharing about sharing.
So our innovator mindsets are also something that we use to build community. So not only is it a good reminder for us and for the students of what we're trying to work on and what we might be trying to build as great qualities. So being bold, being curious, perseverant, collaborative, and empathetic through these. But reflecting on them is also a nice way to really build community. So both having that time to personally reflect, and then having students share out, if they're up for it, around what these mindsets sort of mean to them, and then where they think they're really strong and where they want to work on it. Even if that sort of changes day to day. Yesterday was bold, and today I'm not feeling so bold. So maybe I'll work on that for next time. So we have a poll coming up. So everybody get ready to text or through the website. Put in your information. We want to know from all of you, which innovator mindset do you think you embodied the most today? Being bold, curious, perseverant, empathetic, or collaborative? I'm going to vote too. Ooh, perseverant, working on a design. Now I know 2 people have voted for empathetic because I was one of them. Awesome. Being curious is now taking the lead. And even doing a quick reflection like this where it's anonymous, you know, still students need to think about it for a minute and put an answer, but you can also have them do a quick write, or just jot it down on a piece of paper so it's even more personal or even more reflective, and then get sort of take the temperature of the group. So nobody felt like they were bold or collaborative, although I feel like our sharers were pretty bold, and some of you may have made bold choices in your designs. All right, so let's now, which one do you want to work on for next time? I think is our next poll.
Maybe it is.
No, it's not.
No,
we're not asking you which one you want to work on next time.
I'm not asking you to pull it in. We're asking you just to think about it.
Yeah, so we have a mindset self-reflection tool. We have a tech tip, which is one of our facilitation guides around design challenges. That's around mindsets, and we have a quick sort of chart that you can give to students where they can sort of rank themselves, of whether they feel like it's an area of strength or not. And then again, how were they bold today? And what would they want to try next time? So similar to how we focused on process with the build, it's nice to focus on it being a process to develop these and being an arc, and also not always, maybe you're curious, like I said, one day and not the next. So having them have this tool to reflect, it's really helpful sometimes if you're doing a design challenge over the course of more than one day, to have them sort of think about this and think about how they're being collaborative or what they might want to try next time. And students get really reflective about this. Like they're really able to dig into this pretty deeply and be really honest about these things. So that can help their collaboration. It can help their empathy, just to reflect on those 2. And then also, you know, again, building that culture in your classroom, in your learning setting around supporting each other with these mindsets as well. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So now we want you to think a little bit about what you noticed as you were participating in this design. So as a participant, what part of this process helped you feel connected to other participants? And then you'll also have a chance to weigh in on what you as a facilitator might layer in to try to provide more community building opportunities. So these are also polls. So we can start with that first one, which as a participant, what made you feel more connected to others? If I asked you all to raise your hands for how many times you've seen a pet cameo since we all went virtual, that would be all the hands, right?
All hands would go up. We did an end of the year parent-teacher conference for my daughter at the end of 2nd grade, and one of the teachers forgot my husband's name but knew the dog's name because the dog had been on literally every call. She also graduated 2nd grade, so we're very proud of her. Yeah, just seeing people, the personal connections with the pets. We were all in it racing against the clock together. I love it. Giving and receiving that feedback and praise. Yeah. All of those are a great way. And even if you're not getting or giving, sometimes it just feels good to hear it. People sharing ideas during the build time.
I think that definitely helps me too. It's hearing other people's experiences, and then I can kind of make better connections to my own experiences and things that I want to try.
Yeah.
These are great. I think I will go ahead and ask you the other question. So as a facilitator who is facilitating an activity, how might you layer in those community building strategies?
Yeah, and Alvin put in chat that the sharing strategies helped him feel connected. So.
I know that Erica and I would say that one way to build community is to add in something a little bit silly and fun. We might be biased, kind of is our thing. I'm sure you haven't noticed. But we like to add some whimsy, make it a little silly. And I feel like that helps people build those relationships. Emojis, yay.
Yes, I think in webinars, do we not have emojis? Because everyone's hidden, so people can only react. But yes, I think the reaction emojis are great. I wish they would add more.
They have a few more now. Like there's like a party hat and stuff. It's more than just clap and thumbs up.
You must have a more advanced Zoom than I've got. Yeah, the icebreakers, warm up, and even for some of like Sherry was talking about sort of silly or whimsical design challenges at starting off the year with those, or starting off the week to kind of, again, get people kind of loose and get people connected does really help as well.
I like the idea of having students choose the topic. I think there was an element of that in that you could choose what your pet was, and so many of you brought the real world element of what a pet really would need, what your particular pet really would need. I love that idea of bringing students into that, or even just to defining the problem and helping us set the criteria and constraints.
Yeah, and then someone else was talking about too, extending the modifications of the design, so giving them more time to work on it. I think one benefit of having virtual learning happening now is that students do continue, right? That they've built it, and so they might pick it up again later. They might play with it in the evening while they're watching TV. You know, they might get a sibling interested or show it off to a family member, and so having that kind of that extension is really nice, and then having them be able to share after the weekend or in a couple of days about what they built is really great.
It's kind of an interesting idea to have maybe a handful of options and letting the students choose which one is most interesting to them, or maybe in a rotation.
Mm-hmm. Allowing for that extension. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have a couple other virtual tips for you. Some of them may be things that you already seen and know, but really thinking about sort of assigning a challenge at the beginning of a week and giving them some instructions for sharing towards the end, so that you give them some build time. That's a way to get students to really engage and give them some time and space if they don't like that pressure. Supporting families with information on the materials and process is really helpful, and we have a number of guides that we've written for at home and in casa. So we have them in Spanish and in English that really just sort of give parents a little bit of direction on what's going on with the design challenges, which is sometimes helpful. It's fun to vary the length. So, you know, doing one like a warm up like we did today, and then letting the students modify their pet structure over the week or over the weekend is a really nice way to, again, sort of get that community building, but then give them space as well to add on and to build excitement with their design. And then, you know, knowing that sometimes it's low tech and asynchronous is the way to go, having students work on their own, but thinking about ways for them to share out with each other. So having those materials, you know, having printed instructions that you might be giving to them and having them write it down in a journal and then even share that out when you guys are reconnected or connect. You don't do synchronous with them all week. Having them capture their process with photos and videos and share it later like we discussed before, and then using the online platform for all the things, right? So doing synchronous and asynchronous collaborations and allowing some time and space for both of those, as well as we talked about sharing out and then having the feedback sessions as well. So asynchronous feedback is a great way to go. So as you're doing these, we know that some of you have done lots of design challenges and some of you might be new to it. So you're learning and iterating too. Even if you've done a million design challenges, that next one's going to be new and different. So be flexible is some of our advice. I'm going to give Sherry a chance to chime in here as well.
Like I'm chasing this beam of light that's just on my face, sorry. We want you to try new things. We know you're trying many new things already, so this is kind of an opportunity to try new things that might stick and become a part of your normal rotation.
Yeah, and then testing and reflecting. So not only thinking about what you've done, but also asking the students for feedback. How was that activity for you? What did you get out of it? And that can help inform what you're doing next. So think about and maybe chat in what you will try next. We're going to move on to questions. So if you have any questions, you can throw them in the question area or in chat. I'll look at them both ways. But while you're doing that, Sherry, if you want to go on to our resource slides. So we've got, we'll chat these into you as well, but we've got the tech.org/resources page has a number of lesson plans and our tech tip facilitation guides. Many of them have videos as well. We have our parent guides at home and in casa that have, again, short design challenges that should use materials that are readily available at home or from the recycling bin and junk drawer, and some cute videos to help inspire students as well. So check those out. It looks like we have a few questions coming in chat, so we'll address those. But we're also going to put up a survey so you guys can tell us how today was for you and what we should improve and try next and do better. So we had a question of whether this is preparation for the Spring Tech Challenge. And I would say that if you know about the Tech Challenge, then all of our other activities are a great springboard for your students in order to get them kind of inspired and give them some practice for the Tech Challenge, which launches in October and culminates in the spring, I believe in April. And so so doing the little design challenges like this are a great way to build that camaraderie, build their confidence with doing design challenges, and build some of those mindsets and some of those skills around iteration and prototyping and perseverance, which you definitely need. So that's the way I think it's connected with that, Alvin. All right. Any other questions from folks or suggestions you have? We really appreciate everybody's time this afternoon joining us. We really enjoyed the session and excited to have you all here, and hope that things are going well as you start this school year. We know it's a big, challenging year, so we appreciate all of you.
Very much. Yes, thank you for taking your time to come and play with us a little bit today. My only regret is I didn't get to see everything that you built.
That is so sad. You can email it to us. We have on the next slide, there's an email. Thank you, Anna, for sharing. Thank you, Cece, for joining, and Ray. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, if you want to send us a picture of what you made and tell us about your pet that you built for, we'd love to hear it. And we're going to email out, as Allison mentioned in chat before, we'll email you all a recording of this webinar and a few other links to resources that we have to make them easy to find. And we hope you enjoy that. All right, thanks everybody.
Yes, thank you so much for joining. We hope to see you next time.